Welcome back to another Onigatana Devlog. This is the 6th devlog in our series. Unfortunately, the Repair 4 team has been kicked out of our headquarters, and now we're working here at Macca's, but this will not stop us. I'm just going to rattle off quickly a few things that we've accomplished in the last little bit. Firstly, we've got HUD changes. We've updated the HUD so it's a bit more minimalist and looks nicer, just in a better position. Let us know what you think in the comments. At the beginning of the game, instead of starting with all 3 stances, you get to choose one, and you'll unlock the rest of the stances through gameplay. We added a death screen, very work in progress. We also added a timer to the game, just a countdown from 10 minutes. If you can survive the 10 minutes, then you win. We've added in a fog effect. It just hides the edges nicely, adds some nice atmosphere to the scenery. We've now added enemy growls to our enemies. So when you approach them, when they get close, you'll be able to hear them. And on that note, with audio, we've also fixed the audio bug where audio would just start cutting out when there are too many noises. Done a bunch of work to make sure that there aren't too many noises being played at the same time. And a lot more things, a lot more sounds are location based. Before, the enemy projectiles were just something that you would hear, but they didn't have a location attached to them, and so it was really hard to tell by the sound which direction the projectile was coming from. That's been changed now. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's go a little bit more in depth into some other areas of development that's happened over the last little bit. Our art. Now, we've had to revert the way we've been doing character animations for the last little bit. You might have seen in the last couple of devlogs that our sword was missing the eye that blinks, present in our very first devlog, and it's just been looking kind of empty and bland. This is because we decided that we were going to try a different way of animating the player character by having the sword, right, the Onigatana, attached to the player. They're technically one thing, and this would just allow us to create animations that allowed the sword to be like thrown and tossed and caught again. We thought this would be cool, so we went this way, but it had some implications. It became very hard to get that blinking eye back onto the sword. And it also became increasingly difficult to try and get special effects applied to the sword. We've gone back and we've reverted that change. We weren't really utilizing the ability to toss the sword in our previous animations anyway, so we went back, we made it easier on our artist, and it's going to make it just easier to visualize what's happening in the game, like which stance are you in. You're in fire stance, ice stance, lightning stance. Because of this, some animations are still currently broken, but they will be fixed and cleaned up very, very shortly. We've also added in some new special effects for the abilities. So we can see here that we've got the fireball. We have the hyper speed effect for our lightning stance. And we have the ice tornado for our ice stance. Okay, for design, what they've been doing, they've been focusing on making a big balance patch. They've been going through all the stances and all the stance abilities and tweaking the numbers, getting projectile speeds, tweaking how much resource they cost to use that ability, so on and so forth. They've also been tweaking the health, attack speeds, movement speeds of our enemies, so that it is a much more reasonable paced game, at least at the beginning, and then you will eventually build up into that super powerful power fantasy towards the end. Right now, we think we've over-nerfed the stances just a little bit. They're just feeling a little bit weaker than we would want, so we're going to tune them up again for the next coming weeks. We've also been making chunks for our infinite level, so we'll get some bit more interesting environments, a little bit more visually engaging than just a blank open space, and some more surfaces to grapple on to create some intriguing gameplay decisions. Bugs of the Fortnight! The biggest bug of the Fortnight has been these pesky flying enemies. Essentially, what's been happening is there's a 1 or maybe 2 chunks that we've been experimenting with that just don't work. With the flying enemies, they don't want to cross into it, and when they spawn inside of one of these chunks, they just freeze. Currently, this bug is unsolved. I've been having a look at it for quite a while now, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I have an inkling, which I just found before recording this video, I believe when we are creating our octrees for our different chunks, which if you remember from a previous video, essentially is a 3-dimensional map so that flying enemies can navigate under and over objects that float in the air. When we're generating this, it thinks the ground is really thick, and it is putting the player inside of what's deemed as an obstacle, and the enemies don't know what to do, so they just sit there, and it's very annoying. I am currently working on it, and it will be solved hopefully pretty soon. Next, a bug of the Fortnight that we thought we solved, only for it not to be solved. Switching stances. So, switching stances causes a significant drop in frames when you do it. We thought we solved this by switch from essentially a flipbook style animation that was programmed by yours truly to Bright Atlases, which is a Unity supported way of basically doing what we were doing. Now, the first day that we implemented this, it was great. Performance was up, and now it's down. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but we will continue to work on that and fix that before our build comes out. And thirdly, our success, our lightning slam ability. It was causing the player to go through the ground when you shot it directly beneath yourself. It was essentially a buffer issue where there wasn't enough distance between where the projectile hit and where the player landed. So we've just increased the buffer so that the player, when it hits directly beneath them, still is above the ground and doesn't sink under it and fall into the abyss. And that brings us to the end. Thank you for being so cool. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, do all that. Visit our Discord. Once again, we would love to see you there. And we're excited to get this build to you. Hopefully you're excited to play it, and we'll continue to update you as the date gets closer and closer. If you don't remember, it's May 31st. Thanks, guys. And from the Repair 4 Interactive team, we will see you very soon. Bye-bye.